cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. What's good? What's good? What's good? Back with some more Michael Jeffrey Jordan content. Now, you clicked the video, you saw what it said. Stats that prove Michael Jordan is the GOAT. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you have heard me say on many different topics, various topics, that I'm not a super big analytic stat guy like a lot of people are today, because stats and analytics and numbers don't always tell the whole story. You have to put these things into context. And that context can come from a lot of different things. Just watching games, understanding what's going on, why the numbers telling you what they're telling you, different eras, different rules, all these kinds of things, situations, scenarios can affect the numbers. So I don't always look at numbers as face value. Based on my knowledge and my research, if I feel like I have to explain these numbers for whatever reason, I will do so. Numbers can lie. Numbers do lie. That's me. So I'm going to watch this video, and I'm not saying that numbers can absolutely tell you the absolute positive truth with no added layers of context. That can happen, but I do my best to try to understand why the numbers are what they are. You know what I mean? So I'm going to watch this. Michael Jordan, y'all know me. Maybe if you don't, Michael Jordan, I believe, is the greatest player of all time. But I'll take a look at these numbers. I'll take a look at these stats. But Michael Jordan has a lot of records and a lot of statistics and things that probably will never be broken or touched. Like, he's that incredible of a player. But I just want to see what this is all about and see why these stats are so have so much weight, according to the video, that prove that he is the greatest of all time. Let's get into it.
We all know Michael Jordan won 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, and 5 regular season MVPs. But here are some of the craziest stats and records that you don't know about Jordan. When it comes to getting buckets, nobody did it better than Jordan. And that's why many consider him the GOAT. Jordan led the NBA in scoring for a record 10 times, and with 30.1 points per game, MJ has the highest scoring average out of any player in NBA history. He's also the best scorer in the playoffs, with 33.5 points per game. Luka Doncic is second on this list, with 32.5 points per game, and the only other player averaging more than 30 in the playoffs. But if you think that's amazing, wait for some of Jordan's other stats, which are truly unbelievable. Out of 179 games in the playoffs, Jordan scored less than 20 points just 6 times, and he is the only player never to score less than 15 points in a playoff game. Jordan played 37 playoff series and outscored every single teammate and opponent he ever faced, except one. It was Terry Cummings in 1985, and he scored just 1 more point than Michael, who was still in his rookie season. In the 1960s, when the pace of the game and the number of attempted shots was the highest in NBA history, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, and Rick Barry averaged 40 points per game in a playoff series once, and Bernard King did it one time in the 80s. Jordan is the only player to average 40-plus points per game for an entire playoff series more than once, and better yet, he's done it 5 times.
God damn.
One of those came in the 1993 NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns, when Jordan averaged 41 points per game, which is the highest scoring average in finals history. In 1988 against the Cavaliers, his airness had back-to-back 50-point games, and is the only player in history with this accomplishment in the playoffs. Jordan averaged 45.2 points per game in that series, the second highest mark for any player in a single playoff series. Jerry West averaged 46.3 points in the 1965 Western Finals, but he was shooting 35 times per game. MJ has 8 50-point playoff performances, which is the most ever, as well as the most 40-point and most 30-point games in the postseason. To further put MJ's scoring superiority into context, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Wilt Chamberlain have put up 50 in the playoffs a combined 7 times. Some of the best scorers in NBA history, like KD, Iverson, and Harden, don't have as many 40-point playoff games altogether as Jordan has by himself. Michael entered the league in 1984, and by 1991, he had scored 40 on every team in the NBA. By the end of 1992, he scored 50 on every team in the Eastern Conference. And out of 930 games he played for Chicago, Jordan led the...
Did I hear that correctly? He scored 50 on every team in the Eastern Conference. Did I hear that correctly? Hold on.
And by 1991, he had scored 40 on every team in the NBA. By the end of 1992, he scored 50 on every team in the Eastern Conference. And out of 930 games he played for Chicago, Jordan led the Bulls in scoring 793 times, which is more than 85%. During his entire career with the Bulls, Jordan scored less than 10 points only once. And that happened when he was nursing his ankle after a long recovery. And he played just 16 minutes, scoring 8 points. MJ is the oldest player to lead the NBA in scoring at the age of 35, and is the only guy who scored 40 points in a game past the age of 40. He also holds the all-time record in free throws made in one half, sinking 20 freebies in the second half against the Heat in 1992. One of the most fascinating stats is that Jordan is the only player in NBA history who has more 40-point games than games where he scored less than 20 points. He had 173 games with 40 points, and only 146 under 20. For example, LeBron has played 235 games where he failed to reach 20 points, and only 70 games where he scored 40 or more. Okay, I know what you're thinking. LeBron is more of a passer, not a pure scorer. Yes, but if we look at Kobe, who was the most similar player to Michael, we'll see that he had 405 games with less than 20, and 122 games with 40 plus. So when it comes to getting buckets, Jordan was really in a class of his own. But he isn't considered the GOAT just because of his scoring. Jordan is one of the best defensive guards ever, if not the best. On top of winning a scoring title in 1988 with 35 points per game and winning the MVP that year, he was also named a Defensive Player of the Year, something that nobody has ever done in a single season. His 131 blocks in the 1988 season are the most block shots ever recorded by a guard, and he's the only guard with multiple seasons with more than 100 rejections. He also still holds the all-time record for the most block shots ever by a guard, with 893. MJ has 6 seasons with more than 200 steals, which, you guessed it, is another NBA record. He was also the first player to record 200 steals and 100 blocked shots in a season. In 1988, in the first half of the game against Boston, Jordan stole the ball 8 times, which is another NBA record that still stands today. It's almost comical how one player stole the ball so many times in such a short time, almost like he was playing with middle schoolers and not NBA professionals. With 9 selections to All-Defensive First Team, Jordan is tied with Kobe, Garnett, and Gary Payton for most all-time. In 1989, when the Bulls lost their starting point guard, Coach Doug Collins made Jordan play the point. Between March 11th and April 23rd of 1989, Jordan averaged 30.4 points, 10.7 assists, and 9.2 rebounds per game. While playing point guard, he notched 10 triple-doubles in 11 games. In the 1989 postseason, Jordan had 7 games with double-digit assists. In comparison, Kobe Bryant had only 9 double-digit assists games in his entire playoff career. If we compare him to LeBron, Jordan is typically viewed as the superior scorer, whereas James is praised for his passing and all-around game. The truth lies somewhere in between, and both were more than capable of playing like the other. When Jordan wanted to pass, he proved that he could have been a full-time point guard if he wanted to, but he preferred to score the ball. And the same is true for LeBron, who proved that he can be unstoppable when he decides not to share the rock. When it comes to advanced statistics, Jordan and LeBron are very evenly matched at the top. However, Jordan has a slight advantage in most categories. MJ is the all-time leader in player efficiency rating at 27.91, ahead of LeBron, who has a PER of 27.34. The same is true for player efficiency rating in the playoffs, where Jordan is slightly ahead of George Mikan and James. Michael is also the all-time NBA regular season and playoff leader in win shares per 48 minutes, box plus minus, and usage rate, and is second to LeBron in value over replacement player. When he was a rookie, Mike was the only player ever who managed to lead his team in 4 different categories: points, assists, rebounds, and steals. And if you're wondering what he did to fuel his body, he always ate the same thing, approximately 4 hours before the game. Jordan's pregame meal consisted of a 23-ounce New York steak, a side of mashed potatoes, or baked potatoes if it was not available, and a salad on the side served with some ginger ale. At the beginning of the 90s, Jordan first started drinking. He drank only after the games, but then soon started knocking them back before the games as well. According to former NHL star Jeremy Roenick, He and Jordan once played 36 rounds of golf, drinking a dozen beers each throughout the day. That wouldn't be a problem if Jordan didn't have a game against the Cavaliers that night. Roenick joked that he was going to put money on the Cavs that night, thinking that Mike must be drunk and exhausted from playing golf all day. Jordan then bet him that they're going to win by more than 20 points and that he's going to score over 40. Mike being Mike, Roenick gave him all the motivation he needed. Of course, he won the bet. The Bulls won by 24, and Jordan scored 44 points. Moral of the story is, even when he was half drunk, MJ was still the best player in the world.
I thought there were just going to be like 3 or 4 stats they're going to talk about, and then they would elaborate, on those 3 or 4 stats. But no, this dude was just throwing stats at me at an alarming rate. I was trying to keep up with it all, but you can do that with almost any player, right? If we're going to be honest, you can make a 10-minute video of stats that say, well, these are incredible stats that weigh in favor of Michael Jordan. Here are 10 minutes of stats that weigh in favor of Larry Bird. Here are 10 minutes of stats that weigh in favor of LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Bill Russell. You can do that with almost any player. So it depends on what you value the most sometimes. But I mean, the stats that he provided here were incredible. There's definitely some records there, and some stats that MJ had that I didn't even know, like dropping 50 on every Eastern Conference team. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then I saw him say that he scored 40 on every team in the league, and then I remembered it was like, well, wait a second. I remember when Kobe did it. The thing was, Kobe was the only player that had scored 40 on every single team, not including the Lakers, because he played for the Lakers his entire career. And then LeBron ended up doing it here recently, except LeBron didn't play for one team his whole career, so he actually had a chance to drop 40 on teams that he had played for. But I'm guessing what happened is in the time in Jordan's retirement and the expansion teams came around, that he wasn't able to drop 40 when he came back to play on one of those expansion teams. Is the only thing. And that's why he's not mentioned today. It's only Kobe and LeBron. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Unless I'm misreading that or misunderstanding it. But, I could be wrong. But yeah, man, Mike, dude, some of those, dude said I scored 40 more times than I scored less than 20. Crazy. And I know he brought up LeBron, and then he's like, well, okay, if you want to say LeBron emphasizes passing more, which is, I like what he said there, it's more of in the middle. But it's like, well, let's take Kobe Bryant, for example. But even with Kobe Bryant, you got to remember his first 2-3 years. Let's say the whole stats thing. The first 2 or 3 years, the first 3 years really. The first 2 years, he was coming off the bench most of the time, right? So his minutes were extremely limited. So the opportunities weren't there for him always to score over 20 points. He was drafted onto a team that had a bunch of all-stars already. Eddie Jones was the starter. We all know the story. So Kobe has a very different, when you look at from the time being drafted and how careers align, there's more similarities between MJ and LeBron because they were drafted to a team where they were sought as, I guess, the savior, for lack of a better word, or they were drafted and the team was already theirs. Kobe didn't have that luxury, or if you want to call it, or you can say, Mike or LeBron fans might say, well, they didn't have the luxury of having an already made playoff team with Shaquille O'Neal, but these are how things panned out. Neither of the teams asked for it. This is just the team you were drafted to. So depending on how you want to look at it, but that's just the cold hard facts. Very different scenarios for Kobe versus LeBron and Mike, where Kobe didn't have the opportunity to really dial into the statistics early on in his career. So that's what I'm saying. You got to put these stats in the context sometimes. That's what I'm saying. But even if Kobe had a a a career start that was more in line with LeBron and Mike's, Jordan would still probably hold that record over Kobe. I'm just being honest. Jordan was the better basketball player. It's coming from a Kobe fan here. You know what I mean? So, and very, very, very true what he said, man. I actually knew that stat about all those triple doubles Mike was having when, his card was pulled and it's like, Mike, I need you to do this. I need you to do more. I knew that. Like, Mike, if he wanted to, he could average a triple double or close to it. But that wasn't his game. That wasn't his natural game. But if you needed him to do it, he could do it. Especially when he got in Phil Jackson and all the ball dominance from that perspective was no longer a thing. Now you're playing within the triangle offense. We don't need a de facto point guard anymore. Throw all that away. At times he was allowed to work outside the triangle, but for the most part, he played within the confines of the team and the system. That's all I got to say about it. I got some things I got to do before I hit the sack. But I appreciate you guys for stepping in, supporting. Let me know what you think about it. And I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.